Like, comment, and subscribe.
Once upon a time, in a kingdom surrounded by lush forests and sparkling rivers, there lived a young princess known for her beauty and charm. She loved wearing silk gowns, walking in the gardens, and playing with her favorite possession, a golden ball, polished so brightly that it shone like the sun itself. She would spend hours tossing it into the air and catching it, laughing as the ball glimmered under the daylight. One warm afternoon, the princess wandered deeper into the royal gardens, further than she had ever gone before. She found herself near an ancient stone well, hidden among tall oak trees. The air was cooler here, and the sound of birds was replaced by the soft dripping of water echoing from the well's depths. As always, she carried her golden ball, tossing it higher and higher into the sky. But then disaster struck. She threw it too high, and when it came down, it bounced once, twice, and then rolled right into the well. The princess gasped. She ran to the edge and looked down. The ball had sunk into the dark, cold water far below. Tears filled her eyes. "Oh no, my beautiful ball, my favorite treasure. I will never see it again," she sobbed, wringing her hands. Just then, a strange sound came from the well. Ribbit, ribbit. Slowly, from the shadows, a little green frog hopped up onto the edge. He blinked his wide eyes at the weeping princess and said in a croaky voice, "Why do you cry so bitterly, fair princess?" Startled, she stepped back. "A frog that talks?" she gasped. The frog tilted his head. "Yes, indeed. I can speak. Now tell me, what troubles you so deeply?" She sniffled and explained, "My golden ball has fallen into the well. It is my favorite toy in the whole world, and now it is lost." The frog thought for a moment, then said, "I can fetch it for you, but what will you give me in return?" The princess frowned. "Anything you wish, Jim." "Wells? A crown? A necklace of pearls?" But the frog shook his head. "I do not want your jewels or fine clothes. If I bring you the ball, you must promise to let me live with you, eat from your golden plate, drink from your silver cup, and sleep on your pillow beside you." The princess wrinkled her nose in disgust. "What? A slimy frog in my room? On my pillow?" She nearly laughed, but she wanted her ball back more than anything. So she quickly said, "Yes, yes, of course, I promise. Now please get it for me." The frog smiled, then disappeared into the well with a splash. Moments later, he re-emerged, carrying the golden ball in his mouth. With a hop, he dropped it at the princess's feet. Overjoyed, she snatched it up and ran off without another word. "My ball! My treasure!" she cried, hurrying back toward the castle, never once looking back at the frog who called after her, "Princess, wait! You made me a promise!" But she ignored him, thinking only of her golden ball. The frog sat by the well, shaking his head. "We shall see, princess. We shall see." The princess returned to the castle with her golden ball clutched tightly in her hands, her heart brimming with joy. She laughed and danced, tossing the ball high once more, as if the frog and her promise had already vanished from memory. By the time she sat down at the grand dinner table that evening, surrounded by her father, the king, and her sisters, she had convinced herself that the whole encounter was just a silly dream. But as the royal family enjoyed their feast of roasted chicken, honeyed bread, and sweet wine, a strange sound echoed through the great hall. Thump, thump, thump. The noise grew louder, closer, until it reached the heavy wooden doors of the castle. Then came a familiar croak. "Princess, open the door, fair princess. Remember your promise." The princess froze, her spoon halfway to her lips. Her heart sank. She knew that voice. "Oh no," she whispered. The king, noticing her pale face, asked, "Daughter, what troubles you?" She hesitated, embarrassed to admit the truth, but the croaking continued. Thump, thump, thump. Ribbit. Finally she confessed, "Father, earlier today I lost my golden ball in the well. A frog brought it back to me, but only after I promised he could live here with me, eat from my plate, and even sleep on my pillow." The hall erupted in laughter from her sisters, who mocked, "Our delicate sister with a slimy frog in her bed? How delightful!" But the king's face grew stern. A promise, no matter how small, must be kept. Open the door. The princess pouted. But, father, he is only a frog, ugly, green, wet, and cold. I cannot let him sit beside me at dinner. Open the door, the king repeated firmly. Reluctantly, the princess rose and walked to the door. When she opened it, there sat the little frog, smiling up at her with wide eyes. Good evening, princess. May I come in? Her stomach twisted with disgust, but she knew her father was watching. She bent down, scooped him up with trembling fingers, and placed him on the table. The frog hopped closer to her golden plate. Now, as you promised, let me eat with you, he croaked. The princess clenched her jaw as the frog dipped his sticky tongue into her bread and chicken. Her appetite vanished. This is unbearable, she muttered, pushing her food away. But the frog was delighted. Ah, what a fine feast! Thank you, princess. After dinner, the frog hopped onto the floor and looked up at her. Now take me to your room, for you promised I could sleep on your pillow. The princess shivered. No, never. I cannot let you touch my silk sheets. She ran to her father. Please, father, must I really do this? The king placed a heavy hand on her shoulder. Yes, child. A promise is a promise. So, with great reluctance, she carried the frog to her chambers. She set him down on a chair in the corner, far from her bed, and whispered, Stay there, you slimy creature. I cannot bear to look at you. But as she drifted into sleep, she heard the frog's voice echoing gently. Remember, princess, you promised me a place by your side. The night in the royal chambers was still, the moonlight slipping through the tall windows and casting silver beams on the walls. The princess had buried herself beneath her silken blankets, her golden hair spread across the pillows, when a small croaking voice interrupted her peace. Princess, princess, the frog whispered, lift me onto your bed, for that was your promise. She groaned in frustration. I will not. You are a frog, slimy and damp. My bed is for me alone. The frog hopped closer to her nightstand. Did you not say I could live with you, eat from your plate, and sleep on your pillow? Her anger flared. Yes, but I did not mean it. I only wanted my ball back. Why should a princess keep her word to a mere frog? Before she could brush him away, the door creaked open. The king stood there, his face grave. Daughter, I heard your words. You may be royalty, but your honor is worth more than gold. A true princess keeps her promises, no matter how difficult. Tears stung her eyes, but she nodded reluctantly. With trembling hands she lifted the frog and set him on her pillow. He looked at her kindly with his round eyes and said, Thank you, princess. You may not believe it, but your kindness tonight will not be forgotten. The princess turned away, holding her breath to avoid his earthy smell. But as the hours passed, she slowly grew used to his presence. She even noticed that his croaking voice seemed softer, almost soothing, like a lullaby in the quiet of night. Eventually, exhaustion overcame her, and she fell asleep. The frog lay still, watching her with a mysterious glimmer in his eyes. Patience, he murmured to himself. The spell will not be broken by anger, but by compassion. When morning came, the princess awoke to find the frog sitting on her pillow, watching the sunrise. Good morning, princess, he croaked cheerfully. She shrieked and leapt out of bed. Oh, you are still here. He smiled. Of course I am. A promise is not bound by a single night. Her patience broke. She grabbed him and stormed to the window. I cannot bear you, frog. You make me miserable. She raised her arm as if to throw him out. But the frog only looked at her calmly and whispered, Do what you must, princess, but remember, cruelty never brings freedom. Something about his words pierced her heart. Her grip softened, and she lowered him gently back onto the table. For the first time, she truly looked at him, not as a frog, but as a living creature with wisdom in his gaze. The princess sighed. Very well, stay, but do not expect me to love you. The frog bowed his little head. I ask only for your company, not your love. And so, though her heart was still filled with resistance, the princess allowed the frog to remain. Little did she know, this choice was the first step toward a destiny she could never have imagined. Days turned into weeks, and the frog became a constant presence in the princess's life. At first she avoided him, ignoring his chatter and wrinkling her nose at his appearance. But the frog was patient, never demanding more than she had promised. He hopped beside her in the garden, telling tales of rivers, lakes, and forests. He shared riddles and sang songs in his croaky but cheerful voice. Slowly, the princess began to laugh at his jokes, though she tried to hide her smile. One afternoon, while playing with her golden ball, she stumbled and scraped her knee. Tears welled in her eyes, but before she could cry out, the frog was there. "Fear not, princess. Even small wounds can heal with care." He fetched a leaf, dipped it in cool water, and pressed it gently against her skin. The princess was surprised. You are kind," she admitted softly. The frog's eyes glimmered. "Kindness is the only true magic in the world." From that day, she began to treat him differently. She spoke with him at meals, letting him taste from her plate without scorn. She let him rest on the pillow beside her, no longer turning away in disgust. Yet deep in her heart, she still wondered, why does this frog cling to me so tightly? Why does he look at me as if he knows a secret I do not? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the frog said quietly, "Princess, there is something you must understand. Appearances are not always what they seem. Beneath this form lies a truth you cannot yet see." She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" But the frog only smiled. "In time you will know." Though the princess had grown accustomed to the frog, there were moments when her old frustration returned. One night after a grand feast, she entered her chambers weary and irritable. The frog hopped after her eagerly. "Princess, let me rest upon your pillow, for my legs are tired," he asked. Something inside her snapped. "Enough! I cannot take this any longer," she cried. She grabbed him in anger, her eyes flashing with fury. But instead of hurling him against the wall, she paused. She remembered his gentleness, his stories, his care for her scraped knee. Her grip loosened, and she held him close instead. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Why do you stay with me, frog? Why do you not return to your well?" The frog gazed into her eyes and whispered, "Because you are the key to my freedom." In that moment, moved by pity and something deeper she could not name, the princess bent down and pressed a gentle kiss upon his cold, damp head. Suddenly, a flash of golden light filled the room. The frog trembled, his body stretching, shifting, growing taller. The princess gasped and stumbled backward as the magic swirled around them. Before her stood not a frog, but a young man with kind eyes and noble features, dressed in fine garments, fit for a prince. The princess's mouth fell open. Who are you?" The young man bowed gracefully. "I am a prince from a faraway kingdom. Long ago, a wicked sorceress cursed me to live as a frog, until a princess showed me kindness and willingly shared her life with me. Many mocked me, many fled from me, but you gave me food, shelter, and at last, a kiss." The princess's heart raced. I never meant to." He smiled warmly. "Perhaps not at first, but in time your heart grew softer. You learned to look beyond appearances. That is the greatest gift of all." She blushed, unable to meet his gaze. "I thought you were nothing but a nuisance, and yet, now I see you were more than I imagined." The prince took her hand gently. "Your promise has freed me, and if you will allow it, I would like to stay by your side, not as a frog, but as a man who owes you his life." Tears sparkled in her eyes, but this time they were not of anger or shame. "Yes," she whispered. "Stay." The news of the prince's transformation spread quickly through the kingdom. The king was astonished, but proud. "My daughter has shown loyalty and courage. She has learned that promises and compassion bring greater rewards than gold or jewels." The people rejoiced, for they loved tales of magic and happy endings. The prince explained his story, how the sorceress's curse had bound him until true kindness broke it. Many marveled at the wisdom hidden in such a strange enchantment. In time, the princess and the prince grew close, not out of duty, but out of genuine affection. They laughed together, walked hand in hand through the gardens, and shared dreams of the future. Soon, their wedding bells rang across the land. The celebration lasted for days, with music, feasts, and dancing. The golden ball that had once caused so much trouble now sat upon the royal table as a reminder of how the strangest misfortunes can lead to the greatest joys. And so, the princess who once despised a slimy frog discovered the truth of love, loyalty, and looking beyond appearances. The frog who became a prince found his freedom, not through force, but through kindness and trust. Together, they ruled with wisdom, compassion, and joy, and they lived happily ever after.